Imagine for a second that you're signing up for an ultramarathon. You've been training for years. You are right there at the starting line, but there's this massive catch.
Oh, there's always a catch with these things.
Right. So the catch is you're doing this entire race in pitch black. Like you have absolutely no map. You don't actually know the total distance. And worst of all, you have zero clue where the finish line actually is.
That is, I mean, that's just a guaranteed recipe for a twisted ankle. Or
Exactly.
at the very least, a profound existential crisis somewhere around, like, mile 20, when you realize you don't even know what direction you're heading.
Yeah, but you're just lacing up your shoes and running into the dark because you really, really love the idea of running.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this because every single year, thousands of brilliant, highly educated people sign up for the academic equivalent of that exact dark ultramarathon. I'm talking about pursuing a PhD.
It's a huge undertaking.
It really is. So today, we are stripping away the romanticized myths of higher education. We've got a fascinating stack of academic studies, sentiment analyses of social media, and real-life personal accounts. And the mission here is to uncover the exact data on what drives people into these grueling multi-year doctoral programs, and more importantly, what actually predicts if they will survive and thrive.
And we really have to start by establishing the stark mathematical reality of the landscape they're walking into. Because, well, there's a massive gap between the foundational myth of academia and what's actually happening on the ground today.
Right. The myth, the one most people still hold on to, is that a PhD is this direct linear apprenticeship. Like you do the degree and it magically slides you into a job as a university professor.
Exactly. And, to be fair, if you look back 40 years, it was largely true.
Yeah, for sure.
Most PhD scientists progress straight from grad school into a faculty position. But let's look at the life sciences today as a prime example of how much that's changed.
Yeah, what does that pipeline actually look like right now?
I mean, it's less of a pipeline and more of a needle's eye. Today, only 14% of life sciences PhDs hold tenure-track faculty positions 5 to 6 years after graduating.
Wait, 14%?
Just 14%.
That implies like 86% of these highly trained scientists are either leaving academia entirely or they're getting stuck in some kind of, I don't know, temporary limbo.
They get stuck. Yeah, they absolutely get stuck. And for the really small fraction who do make it onto the tenure track, the timeline to actually become an independent researcher has just stretched immensely.
How long are we talking?
Well, in the sciences, the ultimate marker of quote-unquote making it is securing your first major National Institutes of Health grant, the R01 grant.
Right, that's what actually funds your independent lab.
Exactly. And the average age for a new PhD investigator to get their first R01 grant is now 42.
42 years old.
Wow.
Think about that for a second.
It's a long road.
You've spent your entire 20s and like the vast majority of your 30s in grueling training and these precarious, low-paying research roles, essentially delaying all your major life milestones.
Yep.
You would think that anyone signing up for a journey that arduous would have a meticulously detailed career plan, like a map for the dark.
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
But the numbers tell a completely different story.
Really?
Yeah. Studies tracking entering PhD students and postdocs reveal that over 55%, so that's 55.2% of PhDs and 57.1% of postdocs, start their programs with completely undefined career goals.
Wait, over half of them don't even have a plan.
They have no plan.
Are people just treating the academic pipeline like a moving walkway? Like, oh, you excel in undergrad, your professors tell you you're smart, so you step onto the PhD walkway and just assume it'll magically deposit you into a prestigious career.
That moving walkway illusion is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
You've been rewarded your whole life for getting good grades, so you just take the next logical step.
That makes sense.
But researchers note that interest in traditional research careers actually declines as the training progresses. So that lack of defined goals at the starting line, that is exactly why the systemic shock is so high later on when the reality of that 14% bottleneck sets in.
Man. So if the finish line is a mirage for most people and they don't even know what they want to do in the first place, why are they running the race? Like, we have to look at what's actually driving them psychologically. What's the underlying motivation here?
Well, to understand the mechanics of that drive, researchers lean on self-determination theory.
Okay, SDT.
Right. It's a psychological framework that explains that human beings need 3 core things to feel motivated. Autonomy, which is the feeling of, steering your own ship.
Yeah.
Competence, feeling that you're actually good at what you do,
Mm-hmm.
and relatedness, feeling connected to a community.
Got it.
But how we try to fulfill those three needs, it splits into two distinct paths: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation.
Let me make sure I have this straight. Intrinsic motivation is when you do something just for the pure joy and fascination of the task itself. Like that romanticized image of the lone genius burning the midnight oil just to solve the mysteries of the universe.
Exactly, the passion for the work.
Whereas extrinsic motivation is doing something for an external reward, like a salary bump, a promotion, or just, I don't know, meeting a job requirement.
That's spot on. And academia, by its very nature, culturally glorifies that intrinsic passionate motivation.
Oh, totally.
But there was a really fascinating comparative study done in Taiwan looking at doctorate holders across different health fields that just completely upends that romantic ideal.
Oh, this is the study comparing nursing students to students in other health-related disciplines, right?
Yes, so nursing is a highly practice-oriented field, and the researchers found that about 35.3% of the nursing participants were motivated by purely extrinsic practical goals.
Meaning they just needed the degree for a job.
Exactly. They were getting the PhD because it was a basic, literal requirement to secure a university teaching job. It was a functional stepping stone for them.
So for them, it's just a box to check.
Right.
While the students in the other health fields, they were driven by that idealized intrinsic motivation, like 30.2% desired self-fulfillment, wanting to deeply study the field, aiming to be a pure scholar.
That was the dynamic. Yeah.
I would naturally assume the passionate, intrinsically motivated people had a much better time in their programs.
And that is the plot twist. It was the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah, the nursing students, the ones with the practical check-the-box motivations, reported significantly higher satisfaction.
Wow.
85.8% of them were satisfied with their studies and 87.2% with the benefits. Compare that to the intrinsically motivated group in other fields, who were down at 73.9 and 76.8% respectively.
I really need to pause on this. You're saying the people treating a grueling PhD almost like a practical trade school were measurably happier than the passionate romantics? Does having, like, quote-unquote boring expectations actually protect your mental health?
It acts as psychological armor. Honestly, this is a perfect real-world demonstration of expectancy theory.
Expectancy theory.
Yeah, it basically argues that your satisfaction isn't just about the work itself. It's about whether your day-to-day reality aligns with what you expected to happen.
Ah, I see.
The nursing students in this study, they were generally older, they had full-time work experience, and they entered with mature, highly defined goals. They knew exactly what the degree would do for them.
So they weren't running in the dark. They had a flashlight and a map.
Precisely. If your entire self-worth is wrapped up in the romance of being a pure scholar, the messy, bureaucratic reality of academia is just going to crush you.
Oh, for sure.
But if you view the degree as a mechanical tool to achieve a specific real-world outcome, the daily grind doesn't threaten your core identity. Think about your own career. When you take a job strictly to pay the bills, you tolerate the annoying meetings because, well, you know the deal.
Right.
But when you land your absolute dream job, every tiny frustration feels like a massive betrayal because your expectations were just sky high.
That makes total sense. But I'm stuck on something here.
That's the myth.
Departments assume that if they just look at a student's hard metrics, how many papers they publish, the impact factor of the journals, their advisor relationships, their H index, that will predict who thrives and wants a faculty career.
And we should probably define those metrics really quickly because they are the currency of academia.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, impact factor is essentially a score of how prestigious a scientific journal is. And the H index, that's like an academic batting average. It measures both how much a researcher publishes and how often other scientists actually cite their work.
Right, so higher numbers mean you're a rock star.
Basically, the prevailing wisdom is that high scores there equal a desire for a long academic career. But the data showed those metrics had zero predictive power.
Wait, none at all.
None. The researchers looked at candidates with high interest in faculty careers and compared them to candidates who lost interest and eventually walked away. Their metrics were identical. Identical. The people leaving published at the same rate, in the same high-tier journals, with the same level of support from their advisors.
So the talent pool is exactly the same. Academia isn't losing people because they can't do the math or run the lab experiments, so why are they leaving them?
It comes down to a profound misalignment of values. The real predictor of who stays is whether a researcher's personal values align with what the institution actually rewards and is structurally built for.
How so?
Well, the study found this breaks down along some very clear demographic lines. Scientists from majority racial and ethnic backgrounds who wanted to stay were primarily motivated by individualistic research freedom.
So the system promises them, win the grant, and you get to sit in your lab and independently pursue whatever question you want.
Exactly. Which sounds great if that's your specific goal.
But what about the researchers who left? What were they looking for?
For women and underrepresented minority scientists, or URM scientists, the core driving values were often external and highly community-focused.
Like,
They were motivated by the desire for good mentorship, serving as visible role models, and directly applying their research to urgent health problems facing their specific communities.
and the brutal reality is that university tenure committees don't care about how many undergrads you mentored or community health. They care about your publications and your grant money.
Exactly.
The system rewards individualistic output, not community bridge building.
That's the structural friction right there.
Right.
Furthermore, the researchers documented severe systemic barriers that actively pushed these groups out.
What kind of barriers?
Women in the study described intense pressure against having children while on the academic track, along with just pervasive sexism. And women of color reported that racial stereotyping and departmental tokenism actively eroded their confidence and their sense of belonging.
So when these highly capable scholars leave academia, where do they even go?
They leave because they crave tangible, rapid, real-world impact. So they pivot to public health policy or industry roles where they can develop products and medicines that actually reach people.
Rather than spending a decade on slow molecular research that might never leave a lab bench.
Exactly. And for many URM men in the study, the structural realities, like the notoriously low pay of postdoctoral fellowships and a stalled-out federal funding environment, just made the path financially and emotionally unsustainable.
Wow. If the system heavily rewards isolation and individualistic freedom, but actively punishes or ignores community-focused mentorship, aren't we artificially filtering out the exact kind of collaborative leaders that higher education desperately needs right now?
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive institutional blind spot. You're optimizing for solitary brilliance and filtering out collaborative impact.
Okay, so let's put this all together. We have a 14% bottleneck. We know that blind passion can actually hurt your mental health, and we just saw how intense the systemic and structural gauntlet is.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. So if a listener is hearing this and thinking, I still want to do this, I have a massive long-term project I want to conquer, how do they even evaluate if they have the right traits to survive it?
Well, here is a very practical framework developed by Henrik Toft Sørensen, a clinical epidemiologist.
Yeah.
He created what he calls the I determinants scorecard.
The I determinants.
Yeah, it's a set of 6 core traits, all starting with the letter I, that predict success in a doctoral program far better than raw intelligence.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. Let's walk through how this works mechanically, because I feel like most people assume you just need a genius-level IQ to get through a PhD.
But yeah, IQ isn't even on the list.
Really?
Not at all. Sørensen starts with interest, which means genuine, deep-seated curiosity about the specific research question, not just, wanting the prestige of the title.
Right.
Then comes incentive, which ties directly back to what we discussed earlier, having a healthy, realistic motive. You aren't just doing this to avoid the regular job market.
Or to please your parents.
Exactly. So that's the psychological baseline.
So you have the curiosity and the right motivation. What are the more operational traits?
The third is idea. This means showing up with a realistic, highly focused research question from day one. You aren't waiting for a professor to hand you a topic.
You're driving it yourself.
Yes. And the fourth is initiative. That's your proactive engine. Are you drafting proposals, anticipating equipment failures, and hitting deadlines without someone breathing down your neck?
Notice how we're moving entirely away from academic brilliance and straight into, pure project management.
Precisely. Which leads to the fifth trait, integrity. Now, in this context, it doesn't just mean avoiding plagiarism. It means profound personal responsibility and ruthless time management.
Because you're basically on your own.
Exactly. A PhD is a multi-year project with almost no daily oversight. If you can't manage your own time, you will drown.
And what's the last one?
The sixth trait is interpersonal relationships. Your ability to effectively communicate, negotiate, and collaborate with your supervisors and peers.
It's so clinical. Notice how looking at interest, incentive, idea, initiative, integrity, and interpersonal relationships, it sounds more like the exact traits you would look for when hiring a scrappy tech startup CEO, not a solitary monk sitting in a library reading ancient texts.
It's the perfect analogy. A PhD is a multi-year test of project management, emotional regulation, and psychological endurance.
And he actually uses this as a scorecard.
He literally uses it as a scorecard, rating applicants out of 30 points. A score over 20 strongly predicts high success, but a score under 18 is a heavy predictor that the student is going to face severe struggles.
And how common are those struggles, really?
Incredibly common. The harsh stats show that 20 to 25% of PhD students run into major derailing problems, and ultimately only 5 to 10% ever become fully independent researchers. Oh, and by the way, for postdocs, the eyes shift even further into management identity, independence, image implementation, and international orientation.
Okay, hearing those statistics, 25% running into major problems, a massive failure rate, the systemic barriers, it is so easy to assume that everyone doing a PhD is just completely miserable.
It is.
And frankly, if you spend 5 minutes looking at academic forums online, it looks like a landscape of pure, unadulterated despair.
It absolutely looks that way.
Mhm.
But we have to be incredibly careful about the digital narrative because it completely distorts the real-world experience.
How so?
Well, researchers actually scraped and analyzed over 90,000 tweets using hashtags like #InTadeLife to see how miserable people really were.
90,000, that is a massive sample size. What did they find?
The findings were entirely counterintuitive.
Hmm.
Almost half of those 90,000 tweets were decidedly positive.
Half.
Yeah. And less than a sixth of them were negative.
I don't understand. If less than a sixth are negative, why does every single social media feed make it look like graduate students are living in a Dickens novel?
What's fascinating here is the mechanics of algorithmic bias and human nature. The researchers found that the negative tweets received significantly more likes and retweets.
Oh, of course.
The algorithm heavily rewards cynicism, shared suffering, and venting. This creates what they call the Twitter paradox.
So the digital ecosystem looks like a nightmare because misery goes viral.
Exactly. But in reality, a large portion of PhD students are highly satisfied.
So despite all the systemic flaws we talked about, they're actually finding joy in the process.
They report immense joy from the intellectual stimulation, the high degree of autonomy they eventually earn, and the collaborative networks they build with other brilliant minds. It all comes down to profound holistic resilience.
Right.
There's an incredible story in the research about Olumide Odiemi, who pursued a PhD in seafood safety at the University of Tasmania. His journey is the ultimate testament to the mechanics of that resilience.
Well, I read his account. His path was anything but a smooth, linear, moving walkway.
Not even close.
To afford visas for his family to join him, he literally had to sell his car. During his studies, he was dealing with a sick newborn baby.
It's just unimaginable stress.
And he faced all the classic academic nightmares, too, like completely failed laboratory experiments, a crashed laptop that wiped out massive critical data sets.
Which is every grad student's worst fear.
Exactly. And on top of all of that emotional and logistical weight, he tragically lost 2 of his siblings during his time in the program.
The sheer compounding pressure of those challenges is almost, it's unbelievable. Most people would have entirely understandable, valid reasons to just walk away.
But he didn't. He persevered, and he graduated in 4 years.
Which is incredibly fast.
Yeah. And when he reflected on the experience, he didn't focus on the trauma. He stated that it was absolutely worth it, and his reasoning is what really stuck with me.
What did he say?
He said the journey is holistic. It transforms you, informs you, inspires you, and prepares you for the future, regardless of what exact job title you end up holding.
And that is the mechanism of true resilience. He didn't just earn a piece of paper. He forged an entirely new capacity within himself.
Yeah.
The PhD process, when approached with the right mindset, isn't just about producing a thesis. It's about producing a more capable, resilient version of yourself. The institutional system is undeniably flawed. The odds of a traditional academic job are incredibly slim, as we've seen, but the personal transformation is real and enduring.
So what does this all mean? If we distill this entire deep dive down, it's this. Pursuing a PhD, or really any massive multi-year intellectual endeavor, isn't just about having a romantic, fiery passion for the subject.
No, it's not.
Passion might get you to the starting line, but it will not sustain you in the dark. Surviving the crucible requires mature, practical expectations. It requires a cold, objective assessment of the systemic realities you're stepping into, and an understanding that project management and emotional regulation will save you long before raw genius ever will.
Absolutely. Whether you're actively considering higher education or evaluating a major career pivot or just trying to understand how to tackle a massive long-term project in your own life,
Yeah,
the mechanics of success are the same. Having a defined why and a practical map of what the day-to-day work actually entails is your greatest armor.
definitely.
The people who thrive aren't the ones who expect the system to magically carry them to the finish line. They're the ones who know exactly what they want to extract from the system.
So think about your own biggest, most intimidating life goals right now. The ones you daydream about. Are you pursuing them for the romantic illusion of what they represent? Or do you have a practical, mature understanding of what the messy, boring, day-to-day work actually demands? Maybe the secret to surviving your own personal crucible isn't having unbridled